Welcome back to the enclosure. I must once again apologize. It's been quite a while since my last update. I had to put documenting the build aside so I could basically put my head down and get a lot of work done in a short period of time. I think your last visit was partially through drywall. That was, if I remember right, that was in April. You guys will know better than I. You'll have the last video. Basically, since then, I have been working on average, well, since January, I've been working on average 70-hour weeks. Had quite a few 80 to 90 plus hour weeks in that mix. We had to get the drywall finished. We had to get the painting done. Put all the light fixtures in, all the plumbing fixtures in, a whole bunch of stuff. I have photos. I have the time lapse that I will give you guys on all of those steps and commentary. But I just wanted to say hello and show you where I'm at and talk about the next project that is going to be done. So I have got my occupancy. That means I have signed off on my plumbing, my electrical, and my building permits. I do not have any open permits at this point. They're all passed and signed off. I will need to pull a permit to install the glass guards, the engineered glass guards on the upper bedroom deck. And I will need to pull a permit, a building permit, to install the poured concrete stairs for the basement walk-up. Those are the only two building permits that I have need for in the future. I will need to pull a plumbing and electrical permit to do final inspections. Once I have finished all of the unfinished portions of the house and installed the light and the electrical and the plumbing fixtures in those areas, I'll need to pull permits just so that they can do a final inspection on those areas. But I do not need any further building permits to finish the inside of the house. I'm free to continue with my, as the plumbing inspector calls it, my cooling system, my hydronic space conditioning system. And I am free to drywall any of the portions of the house that aren't currently drywalled. So the basement, the mudroom, the master bedroom suite, and the media room, which was awesome news. And it feels great to have the permits closed, not have that time restraint on my thinking. I started sleeping here September the 13th was my first night here. It was just basically a bed and my cat and some food, and that was it. We're since starting to flesh out our furniture, getting some of it on Craigslist, which has been awesome. Good quality secondhand furniture, the couch set that you're seeing and the table in the distance. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know where I'm at and to show you what the next step is going to be. I do have time-lapse videos that I'm going to create for all of the portions that you haven't seen since the last portions of the finishing of the house that you haven't seen since we were partially through drywall. Those will come later. Now I am going to concentrate on the space conditioning system. So I believe I might be one of the first houses in North Vancouver that received an occupancy permit without a installed heating system. And basically the inspectors could tell that I had a very low heating load. I'm currently still able to heat the inside of the house to standard room temperature, so between 19 and 21, depending on my comfort requirements, with a single 1500 watt electric heater on each floor. And that has been amazing. It's a little bit expensive. The electric heaters aren't cheap to run, just as those of you know with electric heat. But it is great to be comfortable with minimal heat requirements, which is why the plumbing inspector graciously called my system a cooling system. That means it's not regulated, it's not required to have engineering sign off. And basically he, I think, considered this just me doing a giant experiment because I could prove that I didn't really need heating and that this generally will be used for cooling in the summertime. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the broken down version of the mechanical room. So basically I have just received the majority of the fittings. I'm still waiting for I think it's a Webstone purging valve, double purging valve, and a 3/4 cross that's going to go right there. But I'll explain the rest of the components that we've got here. We've got the expansion tank. It's a large one based on the volume of the buffer tank. I've got a 105-gallon buffer tank, and then there's also the fluid that's within the system itself. Got a spiral vent magnetic dirt separator, micro bubbler separator, and bulk air separator. So this is the magnet here. I'll just tilt you down. That's going to go into the double, I believe it's a Johnstone purging valve. Then we've got our filling station that comes down. It's going to go into a cross. We've got our pressure gauge, our pressure reducer, and our backflow preventer, and then that'll be potable water entry. And then that comes down from the cross. It's going to come down into the top of the expansion tank. Over here we have our Balun ultrasonic BTU meter or heat meter. So it is going to help us with other instrumentation determine the efficiency of the system, which is some of the information the vendors that partially sponsored me are interested in. So I believe this has got both a flow in there, as well as a temperature sensor, and then there's a temperature sensor on the feed to the panel. So this is on the return from the panel back to the mechanical room, and then this will be on the feed to the panel. The panel being the plates that are in the ceilings. Each room's collection of piping and plates is called a hydronic panel, for those that aren't in the industry. 2 ball valves that's going to go on the DX2W from Thermoatlantic. That's the main indoor heat exchanger that is going to transfer energy from the conditioned refrigerant from the outdoor heat pump and transfer it into a water stream. And then we've got a air vent for the top of the buffer tank. On the what's called the quote-unquote boiler circuit, it's going to be from the DX2W down to the buffer tank. I've got 2 bleeding systems, so these are air scoops with an auto bleeder on top. And then we've got the series of piping arrangements that are going to come out of the buffer tank. So this basically is an arrangement from here over. This is going to go into the tank. Then we come out and we branch off to 3/4. That's going to go up to the HRV conditioning coil circuit. And then we come down. This is basically the hot water coming out of the tank, come down into a mixing valve. Out of the mixing valve will be the mixed temperature. So there will be an outdoor temperature gauge that'll sense, it'll program the system to change the temperature of the tank so that we're not overheating or overcooling the water based on the outdoor needs. So as we get into shoulder months and the weather gets milder, we obviously need to heat that water less and to still provide the BTUs needed on the indoors. And as it gets colder, obviously we're going to need more BTUs available. Now, what this is doing is it's mixing the temperature of the water that's going to go to the hydronic panels. And so it partially is going to be controlled by the outdoor reset, but it's also going to be controlled by indoor humidity sensors, mainly in the cooling cycle, because we need to prevent water going out that is below the dew point temperature. So this will bring water that's come back from the panel, which will be warmer than the cold water coming out of the tank. We're now talking about the cooling system. And it will mix it down so that a little bit of the warm water goes into the cold water and creates semi-cold water that's above the dew point. These are the two circuits that are going to go up to the hydronic coil. And so we've got check valves, one out and one in. And then this is going to go on the coil itself and have an auto bleeder above it. I can just bring you over to the coil here quick. So the place is still quite a mess. We're still unpacking, but there's the coil that those fittings are going to fit on. And then we've got so this would be, again, all based on the outflow of the buffer tank. This is the circuit coming back from the panel and coming back into the buffer tank. And this will be where the 3/4 from the hydronic coil comes back into the buffer tank. And then we've got the feed circuit between the DX2W and the buffer tank. So this is the return. And over here, we've got the feed. And on I believe it was the return. I'd have to go back to my diagram to see if it was the return or the feed. I believe it's the return. We've got the circulator. It's not called pumps. They're not actually pumping. All they're doing is moving water. Because they have water pushing behind them. It's a closed loop system. They're called circulators. And we've got pressure gauges on each side of that circulator. So that's the system in a nutshell. I'm going to spend the next week or so installing it on the wall, and I'll have the live video showing that process and doing time lapse for me. So I'll just go downstairs quickly and show you where we're going to be. So regular visitors will remember this mechanical area where all the electrical was done earlier. So this is going to be the corner that the mechanical is mounted to. To our right is the 105-gallon Therm-Atlantic stainless steel buffer tank with the panel feeds and return are on this side, and then on the other side is the DX2W feed. So the DX2W is this heat exchanger system right here. I'll just open it up quick for you. And basically it has the refrigerant coming in and the condensate going out. And it goes into basically this coil that transfers the energy to the water. And it has all the brains to the system in the box. There's a lot of electronics here. That's going to be a completely overwhelming process for a while, and I've reached out to Therm-Atlantic for some assistance in figuring out the wiring connections, because some of this stuff I don't have manuals for, and I'm not familiar with some of the electronics of the system. My strengths are more understanding the science behind the water flow. So we've got our refrigerant kit or coil set. That's going to go between the heat pump outside and the DX2W. This is the wall where everything's going to be attached. And you've seen previously our feed and return from the panels. So this is the distribution that goes to the 5 manifolds throughout the house. And this last loop obviously is one that hasn't been installed yet. That's going to be in the room under the garage. I haven't installed that one, so I've just got a loop to bleed out the system. So I hope you enjoy the ride, and we'll talk to you again soon. Oh, I should give you one final update. Tomorrow we are going to be pouring the pads for the heat pump outside, as well as the generator. And then we're also going to be pouring the building science floor insulation, sub-slab insulation test slabs. So I just have to put some chairs under here to bring the rebar up 1.5 inches. And then tomorrow they will be pouring these 4 slabs for me and getting this done. Okay, thanks for visiting, and talk to you again soon.